All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another, I think we're on, oh gosh, number four? I think we're on number four for our Office of Student Transitions Caffeine Chats on Sunday night. Welcome to all of you who may be new, and welcome back to everybody who's been sticking with me the last couple of weeks. My name is Lindsay Barnt. I am the Director of Student Transitions here at the College of New Jersey, and I'm so glad that you're joining us this evening for a little caffeine. I did not tell my panelists to bring a cup of tea, but or a cup of coffee, but if you've been here the last couple of weeks, I always bring a cup of decaf. Today it's Twining's Nightly Calm, if you're in the mood for a recommendation for a little cup of decaf tea. But so glad that you were joining us tonight. And we have some amazing people on the panel tonight to chat, to talk. I'm so excited that Shannon and Avani are here to talk about career and leadership development. That was the theme for our session tonight. So just a couple of quick housekeeping items before I turn it over to them. We're going to spend about 40 minutes with them, and they're going to talk about all the things. If you have questions, you can, as long as you're logged into YouTube, you can go right on the right-hand side here for the comment section. As always, I will be monitoring those questions. If they're related to the presentation, I'll kind of pepper them in, or we'll save some for the end. If they're related to kind of general updates for the college and everything that's going on, we'll save those for the last probably 15 or 20 minutes to provide some general updates on where the institution is moving forward with your students' transition to TCNJ, and obviously in the middle of a global pandemic. So never fear. If I'm not answering right away, we'll get to your questions as soon as we can. And I think that that's probably it. So I would love to introduce Shannon and Avani. So I think that, people pick students and families that support those students, pick colleges and universities for a host of different reasons. And the data that we get back here at TCNJ is one of the big driving forces of why new students are going to choose TCNJ, whether you're sitting here as a first-year student family and your student just graduated from high school, or whether you're a transfer student coming in who started off at a previous institution. Our outcomes are a big reason why people choose us, right? We have amazing placement into medical schools, into graduate degree programs, and then outright into job placement, right? And a lot of that has to do, obviously with those outcomes, the fact that our students are just getting a really great education inside of the classroom that's making them marketable and desirable for these employers and graduate programs and medical schools and whatnot. But it's also outside of the classroom experiences that our students are able to have. So obviously, this fall, slightly a little bit different than business as usual, but really just kind of talking about the opportunities that your students are going to get to become leaders and develop themselves and really enrich and have a nice, robust resume of outside experiences that are going to really complement and make them marketable for whatever that goal is in the next 2, 3, and 4 years. And I know it feels like it's a really long way away, but totally not a long way away. So I'm done chatting for now. Hopefully that set a pretty nice setup for Shannon and Avani to take it over here, but feel free to obviously put questions in, and you two can take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. So my name is Shannon Conklin. I'm the Director of Career and Leadership Development with the Office of Career and Leadership Development. And I've been with TCNJ since December, so it's been a very adventurous first 8 months, but I'm really excited to have the opportunity to connect with all of you this evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Avani Rana. I'm the Director of Leadership Programs at the college. I work closely with Shannon in providing leadership development programs for our students on campus and encouraging students to kind of develop their leadership skills through different programs, initiatives, and our coaching program. So we've got lots of different ways that your students can get involved with our office.
So we've already introduced ourselves, but there's our official titles. And I know this information will be available after the fact too. So at the end of the presentation, we'll also have some more connection details. So if you have further questions for Avani and I, or you want to learn more about our office and everything that we discussed this evening, you'll be able to connect that way. So our agenda this evening is really simple. We want all of you to understand who we are, how we help you and your students, and what's next for you after our presentation. So within the Career and Leadership Development Office, we're focused on empowering students to explore their potential and the possibilities. From the career side, which is the team that I lead within the office, we're very focused on the fact that there's not just one type of career or one professional path for our TCNJ students and alumni. And I know that's also true for the leadership side.
Yeah, so we pride ourselves as leadership is one of the signature experiences at the College of New Jersey. And in that sense, we want to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to gain leadership skills and learn that there's not just one type of way you can lead. You can be an introvert, an extrovert, a quieter leader, a follower, and all different ways to be a really great leader on campus and hopefully to become a global citizen once you depart.
So we're really here to ensure that students are prepared to really confidently navigate the possibilities and the surprises that will happen in life, not just in your career or your leadership journey. And we certainly know that has been the case, of course, with the current pandemic going on, but that's why we're really focused on a flexible model, encouraging students to explore all their possibilities and the potential. And one of the big pieces that we have so many employers and such strong outcomes at TCNJ is because students have such strong leadership and student involvement. So that's something that we know really helps prepare them and is a unique advantage that TCNJ offers.
So we offer a number of different programs as we do throughout, and there's lots of opportunities for students to get involved. So outside of my role just as the director of leadership, I also work with our Army ROTC program, as well as our student government program, which are just some of the small ways that students can get involved on campus. But we also encourage students to participate in a variety of different programs that evolve throughout the community. So some of the things that our office offers is a fall leadership conference, which is a free conference available for students in the fall semester. That's open and students just register and are able to participate. We offer leadership coaching. So we do one-on-one coaching with students to kind of build their leadership journey. I co-advise a peer leadership group that also works with students to kind of develop their leadership skills on a, from a peer level. And then we're also offer TEDx TCNJ. So if you've watched any TED Talks, we'll actually be hosting our second TEDx TCNJ this upcoming fall. And a lot of these things will be virtual, as you could imagine, through the opportunities and make them accessible for our students, especially in this day and age, considering what we're dealing with.
So from the career side, we complement all the leadership development activities and programs that Avani just mentioned. So we're really focused on helping students translate the competencies they develop on that into the practical steps for their career and graduate school goals and the exploration that comes alongside. So we do this by connecting with employers and alumni, hosting fairs in person, and of course this coming fall virtually. Helping students tell their professional story is a huge focus of Avani's and mine right now with our team, so that students are able to articulate the skills and experiences that they have. We curate relevant content to advise students and help them really explore all the different opportunities that are available to them.
I think a key piece that Shannon and I work really closely together is that storytelling piece for our students to be able to share their journeys. So that there's not just one path and what that individualized experience might look like for students. And we both work with our team to kind of create those experiences for our students in different ways. So in conjunction with us, it's not just the two of us. We have an amazing team of folks who help us and assist us with this journey. And so, our team and our lives are dedicated to kind of helping TCNJ students be able to tell their story and to be able to get those jobs and to get that graduate internship or whatever they're looking for as they kind of navigate these 4 years and beyond. So part of that is that we're a team of experts. We are focused on career development, leadership, major exploration, because you may have your student may not know what they want to do. And that's part of what will help them kind of be able to work closely with different offices to kind of do that. Professional material to allow them to kind of do that. And that most important piece, that storytelling piece and that self-advocacy. So when they go on that interview, they're able to articulate the skills and things that they have learned throughout the process. A lot of times we find that students don't necessarily know how to articulate the skills that employers are looking for in the workforce or graduate schools are looking for. So we're dedicated to kind of making that an opportunity for them and being able to help them make those decisions and help them learn that personal growth they need and the connections they need to be able to move on to their next steps.
Avani, I have to jump in there. You know, every year when my orientation leaders and my Griffins, my student staff reapply, and I tell them, I expect to see that you were on my staff last year if they're a returning person and like, you know, a returning student. Oh my gosh. And it's just horrible sometimes on these resumes. And I'm like, you have so much awesome things to talk about in this one role, and we got to get you there because you're selling yourself short by not putting in those on the resume. So I feel like so many of our students really benefit from connecting with this office to be able to articulate that better, not only just written on a resume, but in person when they're interviewing or they're talking about an experience, you know, just being able to say, okay, well, I see you're an orientation leader on here. So what was that about? Being able to say that, right? And articulate all of those skills that were learned is so important. So love that.
Definitely. And their journey of personal growth too, because they may have been a shy student when they come in. They may not have recognized themselves. A lot of the times when we talk to students, they don't define themselves as a leader. They don't want to own that. And so we work with them to develop those skills and be able to say, hey, this is the self-confidence I've gained, and this is how I've learned different communication styles or dealing with a difficult student or doing those kinds of things, which are skill sets that Shannon and I talk all the time about that employers are looking for as they look and they graduate, or graduate schools are looking for to see that students are able to articulate those skills. And we want to reiterate the fact that we're here to help. This is a tool, this is a resource, and we really are dedicated to wanting to help our students kind of move and navigate these waters, because sometimes they may not necessarily know how to navigate them. And also it's ever evolving. I mean, one of the things that we've had to add to our repertoire a lot right now is Zoom interviews, and how do you navigate those pieces, or virtual internships. You know, we're changing our philosophies and trying to make things accessible for students and meeting them where they're at, to try to really get to them and to help them in any way, shape, or form that we can.
So that's who we are. And as Avani said, we're constantly evolving, and we're constantly paying attention to the trends, information that we're receiving from employers, from partners of TCNJ. In fact, we have an employer town hall this week just to check in with over 50 organizations to understand where they're at, what they're thinking for the fall, how so many of the things going on in the world right now are impacting you know, their hiring practices, their recruiting ways that they're going to engage with us. So who are your students and how can we help them, which we're going to dive into with more detail in the coming slides. But your students, you know, they might be decided or undecided with their academic focus, figuring out where to begin, motivated to create change, wanting to understand what they can do with their major or how leadership competencies applies to them, pivoting their interests or path, figuring out how to gain experience or where to focus, trying to sort through all the information that's out there, or simply, is our office meant to help them? And the answer is yes, we are meant to help them. We are not exclusive. We are inclusive of every background, major, level of experience that everyone brings to TCNJ, as well as how they define success and the path or the goal that they want to figure out for themselves. So how do we specifically help? So Avani and I are going to share a few examples to help better illustrate that for all of you.
So I think one of the key pieces that we're constantly thinking about is bringing information together. So curate. We're trying to bring information to our students and different opportunities and really bring information together for them. So that could be through experiences that they may have. It could be opportunities to get involved, connections they could make with alumni, faculty, and staff, or graduate schools, resources that can help them, like our handbook, that provide them with resources to be able to kind of do that, and programs and panels to kind of be able to work with them to kind of challenge some of the ideas that they may have or to reinforce ideas that they may already have. So we're really working to develop and curate these experiences for students to be able to work through those. So some of the examples of the curate that we have is that we'll be hosting TEDx TCNJ, which we're very excited about. This was a program that we actually had planned for our spring semester and got pushed to the fall due to the fact of COVID-19, right? So we're always being adaptable with the way that we do this. We have faculty, staff, and students who will be presenting, and then we got a national license to be able to do this. If you don't know TEDx, you have to get licensure and do a whole kind of thing to be officially TEDx to be able to kind of do this. And we've had a panel of students who kind of worked with that. So not only are students presenting, but they're part of the experience. So for our AV students or the audiovisual who are looking at communications and multimedia, it's an opportunity to understand how they could film and do those kinds of things. And for our students who are organizing and speech writing, those are other opportunities. So we're constantly trying to think of ways that we can include our students through different processes. And then our leadership coaching, which is something new that we started this past year, to try to encourage students to kind of really think about their individual leadership journey and to be able to kind of go through a thought process and an individual coaching session for students to really think critically about what that looks like.
So building off of that, a couple of things that are also included on this slide is Handshake. So this is a platform called Handshake. It's really a dashboard for students to not only engage with our office as far as events that we host or that we coordinate, such as, of course, recruiting fairs, internship job fairs. This is where students, if they want to participate in on-campus interviews, which we're still using as a tool to organize these, and then having employers hosting them virtually, and of course recruitment. This is also where, just like Ivani was mentioning, for leadership coaching and scheduling appointments with our entire team. Handshakes where jobs and internships are posted by employers who want to recruit TCNJ students and alumni. It's also a platform that allows students to network with their peers and share advice when it comes to internships that they might have participated in, understanding about different cultures from different organizations, values that an organization might hold, how to get an internship, how to get that angle. Also identifying potentially alumni that have worked at an organization to leverage that network that's so critical when it comes to that first job after college. Another example here is DC Day. This is an annual event when we are able to actually travel that brings students together interested in the variety of career paths possible in DC, and it connects them with alumni. So we're, again, thinking about how to pivot that and think outside the box to keep those connections going and to help students understand that it's an experience that we want them to have, and then also the range of possibilities that are available to them and that other TCNJ alums pursued. So to give you another perspective of the programs from the career side and experience that we do curate, here's a look at some numbers from this past academic year. So we had over 4,300 employers post over 29,000 job and internship opportunities. This included over 9,000 positions that were posted between March and June of 2020. So we still saw a lot of interest, a lot of opportunities coming in, despite all the things that were happening, seeing different internships respond differently, onboarding experience shift. So we were still that destination for employers to recruit from TCNJ. This past spring, we had our fair in February, fortunately, and we had over 854 students attend. And in the fall, we had over 753 students attend our fairs. Each of those events had 150 employers recruiting. And right now we're working on our online fair that we're going to have at least in the fall. So we're hoping for a stronger turnout. And we're also excited about what has brought as far as these virtual events. We've seen a wider range of employers from across the country engage with us. So that's the silver lining when it comes to us going virtual. We're no longer restricted as far as the travel arrangements that employers can make to come and utilize TCNJ to recruit. So that's one silver lining from all of this that we're excited to see how that continues to evolve. The other point here is This past academic year, we had over 350 professional development events. These were hosted by us at TCNJ or ones that employers made available to TCNJ students through our Handshake platform. So a couple examples of some of those events that employers had that had a professional development focus was YouTube Lives, Women at Google Tech Panel, or A Day in the Life with Habitat for Humanity. So again, this is showing that we're catering to making sure students understand the range of possibilities for them and the range of industries and job functions that they can explore.
And how do we do this? We collaborate a lot. And so we're constantly collaborating, as Shannon mentioned, with alumni. And this has been a great new connection for us, especially in virtual land, because we can access alumni in a different way than we have before. With faculty and staff, a lot also with our faculty, we're working with them to create a leadership minor in the next upcoming year, hopefully. I'm crossing my fingers. This is something that we've been in the works with for a while. Working with staff. So we've got student staff that work with our office. We've got students who are working in general with leadership development. So you've got lots of different ways that we can engage our students, employers, as we mentioned before, the number of, I mean, I was flabbergasted when Shannon told me that 9,000 number, because who would have thought that we would have that many employers looking for our TCNJ students during a pandemic, right? Like, we totally thought the numbers were going to go lower. We were able to engage with employers at such a great level. And then our community, because we do emphasize in working with our community leaders, and Shannon can talk a little bit about some of the programs that we've created with that. So in that process, we're constantly collaborating with different areas across campus and being able to be engaged. So we're not just in that bubble of Roscoe West, which is our office. We're in virtual, Instagram, and all these different areas, but we're also like doing different things across campus with our faculty, staff, alumni. So one example is our fall leadership conference. That's part of our 099 classes, which is the first year classes that students are taking. We'll also be working with student organizations to kind of build that in. And then I'll let Shannon kind of talk about some of the other ways that we're collaborating.
Yeah, so again, like the leadership skills that students build, that's the foundation that we're constantly looking to leverage and make sure employers are aware of. And that's why they're excited to partner with us on programs. So on here, there's two examples. So Donuts with Deloitte, we have this other employer such as Target also joins us for resume clinics or hosting information sessions. Summer Community Leaders is up there. This is where we work with community partners throughout the Trenton area. This past summer, we placed about 13 students at organizations focused on food insecurity or other nonprofit focus. And this is a partnership with Bonner Foundation and the Center for Community Engagement. So that's just an example, again, of us partnering with the larger Trenton area. Another mention that's on there is C3 series. So this is something relatively new that we're finding because so many people are remote around the country, especially TCNJ alums, that they're really interested in getting involved and sharing their advice and experience with students. So we piloted this summer. It's called C3, so Candid Career Conversations with alumni, and we'll be looking to continue to offer that this fall and really in the future. So a lot of the lessons that we've learned in the past spring and over the summer, we're really excited to leverage that innovation in ways that continue to help us collaborate with so many and also really help expand our reach and the knowledge that we can help students feel confident in when it comes to their professional development and their leadership development. So the experiences, the opportunities, the advice we curate, the partnerships and collaborations we have all lead to students connecting the pieces, to tell their story, to articulate their skills, to know who to connect with, to understand the places they can go and the community they have with TCNJ at large that they are a part of. So here on this is an example of the outcomes. The connecting the pieces leads to those successful outcomes for TCNJ Lions. working at National Geographic, Deloitte, Lockheed Martin, as pictured from these students who are part of the class of 2019. So each year within our office, we collect outcomes to understand, of course, where students have gone. So with our 1 year out, we send this out and we collect this data within the first year that they've graduated from TC&J. So based on our class of 2019 1 year out survey, which is data I'm currently reviewing and finalized for our official report. So all of you are getting a little bit of a preview with some of the information we've recently found. We have continued with this strong outcome rate. So 93% of students who responded for the class of 2019 are employed or attending graduate or professional schools. Where are they going? So this is just a few of the examples. There was over 300 different employers listed on the survey results, at least where I'm at right now with the review. Johnson & Johnson, Rutgers University, University of Pennsylvania, West Windsor, Plainsboro School District, CHOP, AMC Networks, Digitas Health, Bloomberg, PricewaterhouseCooper, Ernst & Young, Columbia University, Stryker, Peace Corps, Teach for America, Turner Construction, Condé Nast, New York University, and more. So this is just, again, a range of where students are going when they graduate from TC&J. And this is information that I know throughout the 12 years that I've been within the career services world and higher education, this is really powerful information to have. That's why we really value the network that we have with TC&J, the alums sharing this information so then students can leverage this to really help sometimes make that vague of what do I do next into something very tangible, understanding the organizations where they can go, understanding the job titles, understanding the skills and the qualifications. So speaking of skills, I know it's a little hard to see on the slide here, but one thing that we also collect through the 1 year out survey is just a pulse check to see how students felt that they developed their skills. And again, this is something why it's so important with us focusing and partnering Avani and I with the career and the leadership development piece. This is where there's that confidence that students walk away from TC&J having. So I'll read it to make sure that you can all see this detail. So 93% of students felt they had the ability to communicate with others. So communication, of course, being huge when it comes to the professional competencies that employers are looking for. They felt they had the ability to present information to others. And the other piece here is felt that they had the ability to execute plans. So this is really showing the confidence that they have as an outcome from a TC&J education. So I know Avani is going to talk a little bit more about the leadership side too, that really builds into all of these.
Yeah, so another piece that we'd like to share is we also do assessments within leadership development as we try to work with our students. So that we found that even at TC&J, students who participate in leadership programs, even one leadership program, so be it the Fall Leadership Conference or Emerging Leaders Institute, any of those, they showed a higher consciousness of self, so self-awareness, social responsibility, so being able to feel like they are able to kind of help and engage with others, and then social generativity, I always struggle with that word, concern for future generations as well as thinking about futuristic ideas. Hope agency, which is the belief in one's ability to initiate and to change goal-directed efforts. So like they're focused on the fact that they could create change in the community. And then really strong and really important is resiliency. So resiliency means that ability to be able to bounce back or deal with difficulty and be able to kind of persevere. And I think these are skills that we're noticing that with our students who participate in leadership programs, they show a significant rate of this versus those who do not. And I think that's a really important piece. So they are able to translate some of these skills, as Shannon mentioned before, or that confidence that they could build with that consciousness of who they are, to be able to say, okay, I can communicate with others. I can do this. I have those skill sets to be able to kind of do that. Or if I fail, I know how to get myself back up and be able to communicate those skills. So, and I think those are really important benchmarks that we're looking for at the institution, and really being able to kind of help and develop our students for their own personal growth.
And I just wanted to say the resiliency, I mean, definitely in the face of the pandemic, when it comes to thinking about what they might have been anticipating as their plan A, but then realizing that they can have a plan B, C, or D. That's a big focus of ours right now, is making sure that we're integrating these different competencies into our work with faculty, our work with other staff and departments within our own programming and resources. So this is something that part of the professional association on the career side, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, they got feedback from employers from around the country, identifying different competencies that employers look for. And many of what Ivani shared and the skills that I mentioned in the slide before are what employers are looking for. So again, that storytelling and having students feel the confidence to advocate for themselves and really connect the dots when they're asked about those pieces is huge.
Yeah. You might be thinking, what's next? Considering everything that's going on right now. So we have a whole plan of being able to provide these programs for our students virtually. So as we mentioned before, we are working with our fall leadership conference, and it's going to be totally virtual, and it's not going to be a one-day piece. We're going to try to spread it out throughout the week so students have the opportunity to be able to engage with it in a different way. TEDx TCNJ, normally we would have that be in person and have an audience, except this time we're going to stream it virtually and allow more students to be able to see it at an earlier rate than if we broadcasted it online. So we're trying to come up with creative ways to engage with our students. The other piece that the leadership office is going to do, leadership one, like on Instagram, because our students are all on Instagram. So we're going to be doing IGTV, like leadership snippets, leadership moments, and leadership chats. So to really kind of meet students where they're at and to be able to kind of develop those programs for them.
Yeah, and we've really seen a response to the Instagram content that we're putting out there. I know for our account TCNJ Career this past spring, I think we gained at least 50 new followers just from the information that we're putting out there. So I know I'm really excited about supporting Ivani with the Leadership Live series, sharing all this content. From the career side, again, I mentioned earlier, we're finding that we have expanded engagement with employers and alumni. Again, because of more remote, having a little bit more flexibility with schedules. Hopefully that's a trend that we can continue to leverage, not just right now during COVID-19, because the fact is the medium has changed, but the importance of making these connections remains the same. If not, it's that much more important. So with our use of technology, we're scaling our reach to help more students. We're coming up with modules that can be integrated throughout our learning management system at TCNJ. Again, we're offering our online, our fair online with employers, where the students will be able to connect one-on-one with employers or be in a room of at least about 15 students as like mini information sessions. We're having networking events where we're going to be able to connect students using Zoom. So there's so many different ways that we're finding students are responding to, and we're really excited for them to take advantage of that, and also for them to have those connections with employers and alumni that are really eager to be connected to TCNJ. So these last few slides have more information for you to follow and encourage your students to follow and connect with us. So from the career side, we're career.tcnj.edu. Our social media accounts are at TCNJ Career.
And for leadership, we are at leadership.tcnj.edu and at TCNJ Leadership. Very easy to follow.
Yeah, yes.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. I think I mentioned this, but again, these slides will all be on my website on that resources for parents tab on Tuesday. I am taking tomorrow off. Tomorrow's my birthday, so you won't hear from me tomorrow. You or your student won't, but Tuesday we'll be back rocking and rolling. Okay, a couple of questions that have come up in the chat that I saved for the end. The first one had to deal with, essentially in-person hours versus not. So I believe you addressed that said at the end that we're, as I was kind of putting in the chat, the goal for at least admin staff individuals, Shannon, Ivani, myself, all falling into that category, most of the Division of Student Affairs and some of the enrollment managers offices. The goal is to limit the amount of people and time that we're on campus, right? Just to try to make it as far as we can, right? Without, an outbreak of cases and whatnot. So there, again, most of the services, a lot of them are going to be virtual. I think they're, and what's the plan? And I'm sorry, because I was zoning out, listening, trying to answer some questions at the end. Will you have some people in the office for the fall, or is the goal, maybe 1 or 2 a day or something, or is the goal to be mostly remote? Or all remote?
So we're figuring out what our rotation is. So if we're open, and we're going to have some, office presence observing all the different guidelines that we have to follow as a campus community. But Ivani and I are brainstorming all of that, even thinking if there's offerings that we could have outside too. So we definitely, it's really important for us to be there, especially for new students to TCNJ. So that's definitely on our radar and thinking through right now.
Yeah, and I think even, for example, like student involvement, I know they're going to go on a rotation. The Dean of Students office will go on a rotation. It's just me, so I will not be on campus. I tend to kind of fall away. Like my office will still be super involved, but people need me a little bit less as they get here and get started, because they're accessing resources and people like Shannon and Ivani on campus. But yeah, hopefully that helps. So I think there's going to be some more information here in the coming weeks with regards to hours, but I think the goal is the offices will be open from 8:30 to 4:30 as we normally are. We're just going to have reduced capacity for the in-person people who are there, and then everybody else in the office will be, who's affiliated will be working remotely and still be available during that time. Okay. Oodles have questions about Handshake. So 2-part. First, somebody was mentioning that there was already an accounting event up in September on Handshake, and obviously other events that are coming in. So it's okay. I guess question 1 would be, is it okay for new students to sign up for those already? Can they do that right now with their TCNJ email or not? And then what kind of, is there really anything that the new students can't do with regards to opportunities that are going to be coming from a career perspective in September?
We want you to engage early and often. So everything that you see that's posted in Handshake right now, you can RSVP for, get engaged with. We're going to be rolling out more information on how to prepare for online fairs. That's definitely one thing that will be ramping up. That's going to be one of the modules that we're going to be making available. Recorded workshops, just information on what it means to be involved in an online fair, because of course it's going to be a different situation than if you were walking up to an employer at a fair. You're going to be in a Zoom room, if you will. So yes, please take a look at those, our website, our Instagram, all of that will continue to have updated information on the events that we have and then what we're going to be offering to help prepare.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think somebody else mentioned too, are there kind of specific things? So I'll, just my perspective on this, and Shannon, obviously you can jump in, although you started in December. So I feel like you've had a very interesting less than 1 year in the whole mix, but so obviously each school has a liaison that works in under the Career Center in Shannon's area. So each school has an identified person that kind of provides support for their students. Some schools and each school, just kind of very similar to how I work with orientation and the onboarding perspective, each school has a different vibe, a different culture, a different personality. They do things a bit differently. So the School of Business, they might have targeted things for accounting, but maybe not necessarily interdisciplinary business and marketing, because maybe they do something different there. The School of Science, for example, will have a couple departments that do meet and greets for School of Science within science discipline. So a computer science session where they'll have comp sci specific employers that are on campus recruiting. Same for the engineers, right? A little bit more technical. School of Nursing, I don't know if they do bring anybody on campus, right? They have a 100% placement rate into hospitals and into, their graduates are getting out there, they're passing the NCLEX and they're doing things maybe they don't necessarily need to do as much on-campus recruiting because their network's so big. So just because a particular school or department may not be doing in-person on-campus events doesn't mean necessarily, if you're looking at Handshake, that they're not on the ball, right? It all depends on the school, depends on their alumni networks, their experiences. So much of the school has things that are kind of built in that the Career Center takes a little bit more of a proactive approach in maybe some cases, and maybe they're just a supportive role in other cases, depending on the school in that formatting. So I just really wanted to make that distinction. And it really led me into the last question, at least that I caught, and I'll go back and take a look while you all respond to this. I think it was with regards to the handshake buddy, but do you want to talk a little bit, Shannon and Avani, about, the thought of how you support the 099s? So just to reference for the families, the 099 is a seminar course that every new student's going to be enrolled in. And this is typically a 0 credit course, right? You're not going to have homework. You're not going to, if you meet weekly, it's maybe for an hour. It's not the full number of hours a week that you're meeting. And each department or each academic school, again, depends on the school because each one has a different flavor and personality, are going to be kind of tackling some of those broader topics. And I talked about this last week, but if you have a student who knows whether they want to double major or they want to pick up a minor, they want to have a interdisciplinary concentration, if they want to study abroad, fingers crossed that is able to happen 2021, 20 and beyond. All of the lab procedures or policies that are specific to the department or school. So a lot of these broader academic topics are covered in this 099 course, because if I were to sit here and throw all this information at your student right now in the middle of what's normally a very crazy transition, but even more so this year with COVID, they're gonna lose it, right? They're just gonna be like, it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. So these 099 courses facilitate that, but the Career Center and leadership have a huge role kind of in those 099s, because a lot of the topics and the things in terms of the 4-year plan and getting your plan together involve those offices. So do you all want to talk for a quick minute on kind of how you've supported those students really from a standpoint of this handshake survey? Well, when do they take it and how do they take it? And when is too early? Like, when do you recommend meeting with the Career Center to start talking about a resume and those types of things? You want to talk a little bit of, almost like a little bit of a teaser for what the students will be receiving in the 099 course for the fall semester?
So I can say for career, historically, we would be invited to all these different sections, and we would go in and we give a different introduction depending on what, again, like each school or department might need. So this year, Avani and I have been working to think about how, again, we can scale if we were going to be delivering this content virtually already. So we're developing modules that are going to be available in Canvas for the instructors of 099 to take in to integrate. So we're going to have from the career side an intro to career development. It's going to give you the information on what you would come and meet with us on. It's going to give you information on who your liaison is going to be, some other specific examples, how to get started in Handshake. So that's a little bit just so we can get everyone up to speed on just an intro of how to connect with us from the career side. And then most specifically, like I was saying, who your liaison with, because as Lindsay was just mentioning, those are the subject matter experts as far as your school, the different activities that your school might have. So that's a little bit of what we're going to be covering in the intro side. And I know Avani, she is much more. This is my first fall at TCNJ too, so I'll let Avani speak more.
Yeah, so for our 099 classes, we're going to, normally I would speak at a lot of them, and we do a kind of talking about what leadership looks like at TCNJ and talking about this philosophy of how do you lead, to talk about that individualized journey and approach to what we consider leadership to be. And so we're going to be doing some of that through online modules, similar to what, Lindsay has shared with you all through orientation, but providing opportunities for students to engage with videos and content and different things like that would allow us to be able to share what the philosophies are, what we hope students will get involved with, opportunities for them to get involved with, and to really give them that, foundation that they may need in order to kind of figure out what their paths might look like for what their own leadership journey would look like. So we're hoping to kind of set that tone early into the semester with them and be able to do that. The other thing that we're doing with the 099 is a lot of the 099s are requiring their students to attend at least 1 or 2 of our sessions for our fall leadership conference. And I'm working with Shannon and some other folks to create an emerging leaders track for that, and also a career readiness track. And then fast forward to 3 or 4 years from now, when your student is on that verge of graduation, we're also going to be focusing on their exit strategy. So we call the exit strategy, so their transition out. So these are things that we're already focusing on as they come into their first year, and students will have the option to pick which workshops they would like to attend. So they'll have the opportunity to kind of engage with other student leaders and also other emerging leaders to talk about different topics. So it might be like, how do I choose what to get involved with? Or I don't consider myself a leader. What do I do? And so like really trying to get at like where we could reach them from the start.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
And really, I was going to say for career, it's really so many times students might see career and they think that's not for me. And that's the biggest myth that I want to dispel immediately. Just because career is in our office title doesn't mean that if you're not going into business or you don't exactly know what you want to do, that you shouldn't be engaging with us. That's the polar opposite. We're here for you to understand, like we've been saying, the competencies, the skills. We're here to help you figure out, what you can do and how to get there. So again, like that's some of the other big focus of the intro career development module that you'll be seeing as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really exciting because I think that, there's been, and I've been telling this to Shannon and Ivani, one of my pet projects on the side has been really trying to get a baseline for what these 099s are doing in each of the schools and how can we kind of streamline and make sure that all of our students, regardless of department or regardless of major or academic school, are really getting a good foundation. So this is one area and we're looking to explore others, but I'm really excited with where this is going to go. And let me tell you, the women who work, and it's women for now, but the women who work in the Career Center are just absolutely incredible. And it's so funny. A couple of our parents mentioned at the beginning of this chat that it was really difficult to maybe kind of focus on the areas that you all were presenting on and the topics that you were presenting on tonight, because there's just so many challenges and there's so many other things that are going on. And when I was filling up the schedule, I was like, I know there's going to be some people who feel that way, but I think it's also, I was so glad that you came on and agreed to tonight, because I think it's also just such a great reminder that we're living in the short term because we're kind of in survival mode right now. But this is not going to be the way it's always going to be. That for most students, my first year families, it'll be, 4 years, we'll get them out on time. But for my transfer families, maybe 2 to 3 years, depending on where your student is at in their academic journey. There's just so much to look forward to. And I was, in a little bit of a space where let's kind of, this was a topic, these are services that we're always providing that are the reason, and the hope was that we were going to reaffirm that, this was a good choice. Like TCNJ is going to be the right decision. The hope was that we could start to share that content with all of you. And the Career Center and Leadership, they do typically present at in-person orientation. So I wanted to make sure that we were covering them because they're in here. But your student also, we got a lot of this information in the orientation group meetups, and there will be activities, events on campus, or not on campus, they'll be virtual in the fall, but in the first, say, 4 to 6, 8 weeks of the semester, for opportunities for them to engage with these areas as well. I know somebody mentioned about leadership development program. Typically they host a session during Welcome Week. Not sure if it's going to happen during Welcome Week or it'll happen the first couple weeks of the semester, but you're going to have an opportunity to connect. Your student's going to get a lot of this information, but I think it's hopefully you found it helpful just to kind of get an idea of baseline of services, of resources for your student. And really the takeaway, they should not wait. They should not be engaging with either of these areas junior year, because that's when they kind of woke up, right? So we want to get them in the pipeline soon for that. So thank you. One more question, Ivani, do you have the fall conference leadership date yet? Somebody asked, just so that they could nudge their student a reminder when it goes live.
So it will be the week of October 5th.
October 5 through the 9.
Yeah. So it'll be October 5th through the 9th, and then there'll be opportunities for them to engage each day. And we don't have the schedule out yet. We're still trying to get everything ready for September and make sure everything's good. But yes, it's on, we're just collecting all of the information and being able to do that. But it will be the week of October 5th.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Well, again, thank you. Thank you. If there's any other questions that pop up, I will share them with Shannon and Ivani. And again, the slides will be up. And if you, you had your emails on that last slide, I believe.
Career at TCNJ and leadership at TCNJ.
I'm going to put those in the chat right now, just in case anybody has any specific questions for you there. And I know we didn't get a chance to talk about this before I let everybody in, but you don't have to stick around for the next 15 minutes and hear me talk about updates. If you want to, you're more than welcome. But this is the part where we can officially say goodnight to you. Thank you again for taking some time on your Sunday evening to share the resources with everybody. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Yeah, have a good night. Bye. Okay, so that leaves me with about 10 minutes to fill up everybody with the updates that I have. Okay. where are we? So I started making some notes and I just never know where to start on these. Alrighty. So maybe let's talk a little bit about schedule first. So I'm going to start with the bad news. I had a meeting last week with a woman who runs a faculty member, actually, she's got a PhD, who runs our Center for Instructional Design, right? So her name's Dr. Judy Cook. She is, I wish I could give her face, just really, when I had the meeting with her on Thursday, really replicated, I think, how all of us feel internally. She just, she's been swamped and she didn't have the time to come on to do a full dedication to this show to talk about what a potential class could look like online. And she said it with good reason, because there appears to be, and this is the part that's hard. She goes, what I don't want to do, timing wise, but more importantly too, she goes, I don't know that demoing it's going to be very helpful, because some professors are going to really use Canvas to like every feature humanly possible in Canvas to deliver this course. Super savvy, super great. And that will work for them. And if I show you that, and then the expectation is that every single class is going to look like that, then that would be bad, right? Because while some classes are like that, other classes are barely potentially going to use Canvas, right? Or they're going to use it. There's, some discrepancy now with sometimes you're going to meet synchronously every week, and then other courses are asynchronous. There could be a lot of variation with the course. Now, please be very clear. Variation in the course does not mean variation in quality of the content of the faculty member. What we're really trying to do is have them be in the best position to utilize the tools that they're most comfortable with to deliver in an online capacity. And I can speak firsthand from this. I had a psychology course that I took for my graduate program, and Mina's mom's on YouTube tonight. So hi, Mina's mom. Our psychology course was virtually asynchronous. We met every other Saturday, and that was it. No weekly classes, no online things. We did tons of discussion boards, and you read through and you moved through the modules, right? As if you were reading a textbook. There were links, there were articles, you went through, you took your own notes, you had discussion boards that were due, but a lot of it was done on your own time, and you had to manage that time and do that. And then every other week, and that was kind of the schedule for this psychology course, we would meet on Zoom, and then we would have discussions or activities or whatnot. So their Canvas course looked a little bit more robust. I think it was probably I would argue that it was the best use of a Canvas course that I've had as a graduate student here. Then I had a course this semester in the summer, which I just finished yesterday. I took a human resources course. And again, amazing faculty member, but everything was in the textbook. Like she every week would only post like, maybe here's an extra supplemental reading or two to look at. And we really only utilized Canvas to log in to submit assignments or to take our tests, because we had 2 tests. So there's a lot of variation, and both courses were excellent. Both courses I learned a ton from. I had to, obviously adjust a bit with how that was being delivered, but in the essence of kind of demoing for all of you, it was really difficult because we didn't, I feel irresponsible if I did it. I don't want you to have this expectation over here of this being like this perfect, beautiful thing, because it could be, but then other people are going to have a really amazing course that maybe not utilizing Canvas as much. So we had a nice chat. She did give me some, so I told her, I said, I totally get that. Give me some updates. So do you have any content that I can give the parents if we're not going to do a demo? So she confirmed that over 600 faculty members attended summer training. I think I mentioned that a couple weeks ago, but we had faculty members that were going through summer training so that if they wanted to brush up on skills, if they did want to utilize a function within Canvas that maybe they weren't particularly used to using before, they had an opportunity to connect with our instructional design office to brush up on those. So over 600 faculty members, they talked and covered a few things in those trainings. They covered synchronous versus asynchronous delivery. So I talked about that a bit, right? So how are you facilitating your online Zooms and working in breakout rooms, and how are you going to kind of facilitate class discussion in that space versus if you're doing an asynchronous mostly delivery, how are you setting up your modules, like I mentioned with my psychology course, so that it's guiding the student along and moving forward on some of those pieces. They also talked about best practices. So that was something that was covered. And again, I think that's probably just a really good resource for everybody, a refresh for everybody to have, but really kind of hammering through, because Canvas, everybody uses Canvas, but some might be using it and utilizing it in the fall much more significantly than they had been previously. And they were really mindful about the equity issue. So having conversations about making sure that the classroom, that the engagement with the course was equitable, whether a student was living on campus residentially and potentially coming to class in person once or twice a week or whatnot, versus a student who was a commuter or who was exercising the remote option and would only be engaging with that faculty member or that course in a remote setting. So they spent a decent, good amount of time referring to the equity piece as well, which I think was really important. And then she just mentioned that they were leveraging the strengths of the learning environment, right? So again, this is kind of, and I've alluded to this previously, but we were in a rush. We had 8 days or 10 days or whatnot in March to pull this all together. And by we, I mean everybody in higher education in K through 12. But now really taking the time over the summer that if faculty members really wanted to beef that up, that they had the opportunity to make sure that their skills were on point so that they were able to deliver that in the best way possible for their students. So they worked through all of those. And those were the notes that she gave me. Wait, do I have one more? Oh, she stressed, this was an interesting piece too. And I asked her, I said, are you serious on this? And she said, yes, they want it. And that goal is it's going to feel like a regular semester. It's just going to have some components that are online. Online was already into many of our courses, but she really wanted to stress that that was something that was in those trainings that they were focusing on, was to kind of replicate that, which I know seems like a crazy thing to think about because so much of our day-to-day lives are not regular, but that was the goal. And I think in terms of your content, in terms of your delivery, your engagement with your faculty members, the availability of those faculty members to answer questions, support resources, all those things, I have no doubt TCNJ is going to rise to the occasion and step up on that. And I can speak to that, candidly firsthand as a graduate student. So that was a little bit on Judy. And I wanted to start with, I guess, maybe the pseudo bad news there. Although I understand completely her reasoning. And if we have some time, maybe later, I'll pop you in to show you my courses. I could take you a quick run through on mine, but hopefully that answered that. On to better news. So Tuesday night, we have a bonus session. Thank you for everybody who already signed up. If you didn't, it was in the email that you got for the RSVP here on Friday. But Tuesday night, this coming Tuesday, August 4th, 7:30, same time, same spot here on YouTube, we will have Janice Vermachuk, who is our Director for Student Health Services. She will be my special guest. So this is going to be, there were tons of questions about, will there be testing? I think that was one that I wrote down here. Testing for commuters and students that are, off campus that are coming to campus. Are they mandatory testing versus residential? Do the residential students have mandatory testing? There were a handful of questions if you're a student, if you're a family who's out of state, if you're on that list of 37 or 38 states that has to do the quarantining if they come to New Jersey for 2 weeks, like what does that look like? I know personally I have staff members who might be on vacation in August who are going to be traveling to states that might have a quarantine. What does that look like? So hopefully by Tuesday she has some answers. I know she's been very, she struggled a bit, just not really great information coming out in a timely manner from the CDC. I don't know about the state local things of that nature, but hopefully she's going to be able to walk through and answer some of these health related questions that you have. So Tuesday night will be a big night. If you have nothing to do, obviously, if you're busy, that will be available on the YouTube channel later for you to watch. I know that there's also a whole bunch of questions about, the governor's last. Well, I don't know if he had a meeting, if he had a press conference yesterday, but I know that he had one on Friday, and he's not happy. The numbers are going back up. So stage 2, stage 3, I don't know. I think this week's going to be really interesting, and I don't know where it's going to go with that. A lot of the plans that we submitted were based on moving into stage 3. Not personally very confident that that's going to happen, but I don't know that any of us have a magic ball to see that and what happens if we stay in stage 2 and what are the restrictions and whatnot. That fall website is going to have as much up-to-date info as possible. So fall2020.tcnj.edu, any updates that we have, our president, Dr. Foster, she's meeting with the local, with all the state institution presidents and the governors, the higher education office on a regular basis. So any up-to-date information is going to be on that website first, likely maybe even before I get it. But let's see how the next week goes with terms of stage 2 for stage 3. One of the questions was asked about the lounges in the residence halls as well. If we're in stage 2, the residential hall lounges are not available. we're not allowed to use them. If we are able to move into stage 3, it's under a limited capacity. So I'm sure that the community advisors, so we call our live-in student staff, most schools call them RAs or resident advisors. We call them community advisors or CAs. They'll have more details once we kind of hit whatever that stage 3 is looking like, hopefully here. A couple questions again popping up about campus life. I had a whole bunch that came up from students during orientation in terms of what you can and can't do on campus. I think, again, that fall2020.tcnj.edu website that has the most up-to-date stuff when it comes to student activities. Office of Student Involvement is continuing to work on what opportunities they could potentially be doing in person, but if it were me, and I talked to many parents this past week on the phone, and this is the big thing right now, right? You don't know what that on-campus experience is going to look like. You have now until next Monday, so you're a little bit less than a week away from the housing deadline to pull out without a penalty, and there's still a lot of gray around on-campus experience. So if it were me, I would just say that I would assume bare bones, that there's not going to be a whole lot of activity going on. There's not going to be a whole lot of opportunities, at least inside, to congregate, to be able to socialize. Obviously, if they have a flex class, they could go to class. They're going to be picking up food outside as long as they're practicing social distancing, guidelines and all those things that we have set up. Obviously, all of that is okay. I just genuinely still yet don't have an answer on how lively the campus is going to be from a socialization standpoint. And I wish I had more for you on that. And I know that that's a huge factor for some of you that's coming into play here with whether or not your student wants to live on campus. So I'm sorry, and I get it. And if I can find anything else out now in the next week, and certainly before Tuesday night when I meet with all of you again, I'll try to do one more reach out to see if there's been any updates. But that fall 2020 website had some new stuff that I didn't even have when I checked last week. So make sure that you are keeping a check on that. Okay, some questions about Welcome Week. So Welcome Week, it was condensed. So we have 5 days going down to 2.5. It's going to start in the afternoon on Saturday, August 22nd. So essentially what will happen is that there'll be some programming Saturday afternoon and evening. There should be some programming on Sunday. And then Monday is Academic Welcome Day. So let me talk about the day and a half for traditional Welcome Week first. I don't have too many updates on that schedule yet. I need to build it, to be perfectly honest with you. I am envisioning at this point that the majority, if not all of it, is going to be virtual. I know that I've mentioned over the last couple of weeks that the hope is that maybe we could do an event or two in an in-person capacity, but with the numbers going up and with so much gray, that's not the right word, so much up in the air, maybe that's a good way of saying it, with regards to stage 2, stage 3, what we can and can't do. It's putting a bit of a challenge on what we can potentially deliver here. So I hope that by next week I will have some type of schedule, but I would anticipate a mostly, if not all, remote virtual Welcome Week experience. And again, residential and commuter students and flex students will be able to participate in all of those. I agreed with Judy that the equity piece, I don't want any student who's choosing to go remote for the fall semester to be at a disadvantage because of that. So I need to flesh out those details, and I'll follow up with obviously the students first and foremost, but you as well, hopefully within the next week or so on that. I do have some updates for Academic Welcome Day. So Academic Welcome Day has now entirely been virtual. So I had a meeting last week with regards to Convocation, which is a really nice event that really kind of brings the entire class together. And again, this would be for our first year and our provisional students and some of our freshman level transfer students, but anybody who falls into that class of 2024, they're only together as a class twice, once at the very beginning of their college journey at Convocation and once at the very end for commencement. And there was no way that we could not have that event. It's just such a nice thing. So we will be doing that virtually. All of their dean's welcomes and their department welcomes and their kind of formal introduction to their schools and their departments will still be taking place. That will be virtually as well. And we're fleshing out those details. And then typically on Academic Welcome Day in the afternoon, every student participates in a summer reading program assignment, or discussion, I should say. So the students should be wrapping up the book, should be working on their assignments if they haven't submitted them already for the summer reading discussion, and which was Sweat this year by Lynn Nottage. We're working on that. So they'll come together in groups of about 15 to 18. And again, that will be virtually this year, but they'll have a discussion with a facilitator about the book. And it's just a really nice kind of start to their academic engagement and their journey here at the college. So all of those components to that academic welcome day will be virtual this year. And I can confirm that with everybody at that point. Let me go back now for a second. I know we're short on time, or over on time, excuse me. So I apologize if I didn't, that I'm going over, and if I don't get to everything about this. And again, similar to previous weeks, I will go back and just read through these chats here and answer any other last minute questions that I can. Let's see here. Okay, I think we're good. And I'll go back and scroll. The one more thing that I do want to add. So Janice is going to be my guest speaker for Tuesday. She's going to be on. We'll talk all things health services. Next Sunday, the 9th, is going to be, I'm going to have Tina Tormey on. So Tina Tormey is our Director of Residential Education. So our Residential Education and Housing Office have two separate directors. Tina kind of covers all the residential education side of things. So she's going to answer oodles of move-in questions. If you have move-in questions, if you have questions about living on campus, the lounges, what programming is going to potentially look like for the students that are living there, because we do traditionally do a lot of programming in the residence halls, laundry, all those kind of questions that you might have pertaining to a student who's living on campus. So that would be next Sunday. If your student is definitely remote or is commuting to campus, might not necessarily be, this might be one that you can skip or catch later if there's anything major going on there, or come back and watch the last 15 minutes if I have updates for you there. If anything changes in the next week and we feel like it's really important to have our Director of Housing on as well, that's Emily Thomas, I will see if she can join us as well. So it's definitely Tina for now, potentially Emily, depending on where we are with the housing pieces and if there's any changes to anything state related in the next week or so. And then we're going to round out on the 16th, my final guest presenter before guest on this show, I guess, will be Sean Stallings, who's our Vice President for Student Affairs. And I think that will be a really engaging conversation as well. And I will likely put out the link for the Ask a Question for him so that you can have some specific questions there. But he always loves getting in front of the parents and the students and talking to them. And he would have, potentially some more general information, but really kind of thinking more long-term about how the Division of Student Affairs functions and supports your student and all the really great, exciting things to come for their journey here at the college. So alrighty, I think that's it. I will stick around to answer a few more questions after I hit the end broadcast. As always, studenttransitions@tcnj.edu if there's anything really pressing. Hopefully you've been able within the last week. I know a lot of our offices have started to get caught up with emails that came in when everybody was on furloughs. We'll continue to do that. But if you're having any issues getting a hold of anybody for questions or answers or anything like that, but otherwise, I hope to see most of you on Tuesday. All right. Thank you so much again for your grace, for joining me tonight, and your birthday well wishes. I really appreciate it. So take care. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you on Tuesday.